A warm welcome to all for today's session on techniques of guidance and counseling. I, Dr.RENI Francis, would like to, a principal of MES's Pillai College of Education and Research, would like to introduce you to this topic today. We all have come to this world with a different set of abilities, capacities, limitations, challenges, but it is important for us to identify them and look at it and then grow further. This session will be focusing on orienting the different techniques of guidance and counseling, namely checklist and questionnaire, interview and case study, cumulative record, and anecdotal record. What is a checklist? A checklist is an important approach to study the personality is by developing an inventory of the felt, said, or the said problems of students. They have been used as aids in counseling or in surveying the concerns of the students that we are studying. The other purpose of checklist is it may be filled out anonymously. I mean, it's not necessary that the particular student that you are trying to understand is filling it. It can be an anonymous data collected also. A problem checklist or an inventory consists basically of a list of problems which are common to a population of the age that you have selected. And the student doing the inventory indicates which of these problems are bothering him or her, although being a student. So there are a variety of reasons may not be willing to admit the problem that is concerning them. So these checklists may be, sometimes interpreted, if they are interpreted properly, they will be helpful in giving a lot of data and interesting results. So they may reveal about certain, suspected reasons. A new set of unsuspected reasons may also come out. So it's a technique. It's also it's a technique that is helped in guidance, and the checklist involves a series of statements. Furthermore, these statements are positive and negative, and the evaluator may say a yes or answers it by yes or no. And this technique checks if the evaluator shows that behavior or leaves it unchecked. The checklist system includes statements about the habits in the workplace or in the place of action and the skills of the individuals. Reports for work on time, it could be like example reports for work on time on most days. It could be exhibits a pleasant behavior towards others, does the work very systematically, is tends to take criticism quite personally. So these could be some of the, which may be included as a part of the checklist. So what are the benefits of a checklist in the classroom? Organization and structure. Checklist provides a clear and structured framework for learning. They help break down complex tasks or concepts into smaller, manageable steps, making it easier for learners to understand and follow the learning process. It focus and attention. By using a checklist, learners know what they have done and where to go and what to do next. Thus, they are prompted to pay attention to specific details and more important elements of a subject or a task. This helps them to stay focused on the relevant information and reduces the chance of overlooking the key points. Retention and recall. Checklists can enhance memory and retention of information. When learners engage with the checklist, they are uh, actively review and reinforce their understanding of the material. So the lot of checking off is completed when you are providing a checklist. It also helps in progress tracking. Checklist provides a visual representation of progress, allowing learners to see how far they have come and how much more they have to do. The sense of accomplishment can boost motivation and encourage learners to continue their efforts. It also helps in confidence building. So checklist provides learner with a sense of structure, with a sense of understanding of, building a confidence. They are aware of their abilities, uh, reduces uncertainties, increases confidence. As learners complete the checklist, they gain a sense of accomplishment, which further helps them to boost their confidence in their learning abilities. So this is how your checklist helps you in the learning process. The next that we have as a tool or as a technique of guidance is a questionnaire. So a questionnaire is a research instrument consisting of a series of questions for the purpose of gathering information from respondents. Questionnaires can be thought of as a kind of a written interview. They can be either done to a face to face, or via telephone, or by a email, or by a post, or physically going and taking the interview. Questionnaire provides a relatively cheap, quick, and efficient way of obtaining large amount of information from a large amount of sample. There are closed questionnaires, that is yes no type of questions. Objectivity is present, and they are quick and easy to complete and analyze. There are open-ended questionnaires which takes more time to answer, and there's a lot of time taking in the analysis process, and there is a chance of subjectivity to step in during the in a open-ended questionnaire. So what are the advantages of a good questionnaire? With a survey questionnaire, you can gather a lot of information in less time. There's less chance of any bias creeping in if you have a standard set of questions, because you know the target audience. You can apply logic to your questions based on the respondent's answer, but the questionnaire will remain standard for a group of respondents that fall in the same segment. Surveying online survey softwares can be used to send a questionnaire, which is more cost effective, and you can design it in the way that you need to do it. The responses can be compared with the historical data that you have. It's also used in revealing more about the person and knowing the person in a better manner. So, how can you see if the questionnaire is a good one? What are the qualities, or what are the characteristics or features that you need to understand when you develop a good questionnaire? So, uniformity is one of the characteristics that you have to keep in mind. Questionnaires are very, very useful and to collect a large amount of data, personal opinion, facts, attitudes, from the respondents. It's easy to get them. One of the most significant attitude of a research questionnaire, or in the form of a research, is every respondent sees the same set of questions. And the statistically, when you're trying to analyze, you are able to look at each one's perspective in a different format. Exploratory, it helps in exploring a lot of data, a lot of information, because it's a qualitative data. You are able to get a lot of information, which enables you to get a rich uh, understanding of the problem area that you're looking up. So it's more of an information. It's not restricted. It is more of an information gathering. So it helps you to understand. And then when you want to analyze it, you can structure and limit the kind of responses that you need to want. The sequence of the question has also needs to be maintained, because it should follow a structured flow. Only then the thought process for the respondent is able to come very systematically. So the sequence of the questionnaire has to be planned very well. It should not be haphazardly written. It should not be haphazardly formed. So the sequence of the question is in screening the questions, like warm up questions, then transition questions, skip questions, challenging questions, classification questions. So it makes the person to think and then respond, and then there is a flow that is maintained. So this enables the person to give the right quality of data. So moving on from the questionnaire, we know that a questionnaire, many of us have filled a lot of details with respect to the questionnaire, and many of us have taken a lot of understanding about the questionnaire. But when you are taking data and you have a lot of time, a questionnaire really helps you in getting a lot of information. The next that we have on our study is a case study. A case study is defined as a collection of all available information, social, psychological, biological, environmental, vocational, that promises to help explain a single individual. A case study is a comprehensive collection of information gathered by using different tools and techniques of data collection. It is the most important technique and the best method for studying a person through tapping all the information and enabling us to understand it better. So whenever you are planning for a case study, the main objective of a case study is to observe the individual as a whole. Behind a case study, there's always a larger developmental view that you are looking forward for. So the counselor, the person who's giving guidance, is interested in not only diagnosing the problem, but suggesting suitable remedies that will help the child to have a better adjustment with the society and with the field around. So, what are the aspects the case study about a person should present? A basic information such as the physical, the socio-economic, and the cultural environment of the individual, the history and the present status of the family, personal history of the individual. It also talks about the physical environment that the individual is in, whether the kind of the learning, whether it is rural, urban, the kind of working, middle class, lower class, higher economic class, the cultural environment, whether they the what are the ways of life, the ideals, the point of view, whom they belong to. All these make a lot of impact on a case study. When we are trying to understand the case study, we are trying to look into the aspects which help in developing the individual. So the study of the individual is to be made in a similar way as done under family's history, individual's physical health, has the child grown physically well, psychologically well, socially well? If there are any medical emergencies that the child has, what are the medical checkups which are done? What is the kind of difficulties or challenges? Is there an issue in emotional development? Is the person emotionally disturbed or immature or unstable? What are the what is the position of the individual in the family? What are the feelings about the child? It's a single child or many children at home. All this has to be kept in mind when we are collecting the information of the environment and the family, and which is directly and indirectly impacting the development of the person. So what are certain difficulties that we find in a case study is making a case study is not easy because it is too complicated and too time consuming. It may also be too subjective if the person who prepares the case study is not skilled. Preparing a complete case study for each child is not feasible in the classroom, and hence there are a lot of aspects that need to be understood when you are taking up the case study. A teacher may take up one or two cases for studying them and then exploring them and being more particular when they are talking about the case study. So where you are looking into various aspects when you are talking about case study, and which helps them to understand better. The next that we have is the interview. So an interview is a conversation with a purpose. The purpose for which interviews are arranged are introductory, fact-finding, evaluative, informative, therapeutic in nature. Another characteristic of is the relation between the interviewer and the interviewee. The occasion should be like a friendly and informal talk. The interviewee should be allowed to talk in a permissive atmosphere with confidence and freedom. Uh, there are a lot of types of interviews that we see, but interviews are basically classified with a purpose in mind, and they can be categorized on the basis of the nature of relationship between the interviewer and the interview. If the in the interview, if the dominating figure is the counselor, then it is a counselor-centered interview. And if it is a client, then it is a client-centered interview. So what are the major types of interview that we have heard about is a fact-finding interview. The purpose of a fact-finding interview is the verification of the facts and data collected from other sources. The second is a diagnostic interview. The purpose of a diagnostic interview is remediation, an effort made by the interviewer to diagnose a problem of the interviewee and find out symptoms, and necessary information that is collected will help in solving the problem. The next that we have is a counseling interview. The purpose of a counseling interview is to provide an insight, a suggestion, a piece of advice to the interviewee. The counseling interview sessions begins with the work of collecting information and proceeds with guidance, and finally ends up with a psychological treatment for the. What are the general principles, you need to remember when you are doing a counseling interview or any kind of an interview. You need to understand that interview it's a non-standard technique used for studying interview. So it's commonly used in counseling. It is a technique with it's a valuable technique for obtaining information, giving information to a group, selecting a new employee, and helping the individual to find solution in a situation that is difficult to adjust. So it can be widely used in guidance because it has certain advantages which are not possessed in other techniques. It is very flexible. It is useful in almost all situations with people having different backgrounds. It has a variety of purposes. Gives a therapeutic value. An interview establishes a face-to-face relationship between the interviewer and the interviewee. There is a direct relationship that gives a lot of insight. It is also helpful in diagnosing problem. Interviews is useful to the client because it enables them to think about themselves and about oneself, and make necessary changes or steps that will help in the process of interview. So an interview is another aspect which really helps in a conversation, in building a conversation, in helping them to understand, and also making them to take a decision, a value decision in their life. The next that we go ahead is the anecdotal records. Again, when we come to anecdotal records, it contains short descriptive accounts about some events regarding a student. Every account is a report of a significant episode in the life of a student. It is a simple statement of an incident deemed by the observer to be significant with respect to a given student. So, when such reports describing on the spot some incidents are recorded, so that they may be of significance later, they are collectively called as anecdotal records. An anecdote may be compared to a snapshot of an isolated incident of the behavior of a student, so which suggests some special significance. Just as as you click on the camera, the pose that you give and at a given point of time, it denotes some kind of a kind of a behavior, some kind of a kind of a overt or a covert behavior. It is in the same way. If we accept the uniqueness of the individual as a principle, the snapshot gives a lot of idea and implication about the person. So a teacher should write down, or a person, a counselor should write down of the snapshot that is discovered. Those words that describe should be checked when you're when you're meeting the individual, and in associating that picture with the individual. So maintaining anecdotal records is the result of an observation by a teacher about a specific behavior of a student in a situation. It is to write down to get a better understanding of the student, because the teacher may forget it later. The person may forget it later if it is not written. So the person writes down what he or she observes and does not give any remark, just penning it down, writing it down what has happened, describing the event and the behavior, and what are the possible remedies that can be given. So, what should you keep in mind when you are talking about an anecdotal record? The form should be short and informal. It should be significant episode. It should be marked, described very specifically. Should be written about all about the student, not about the high achiever or the low achiever, but about that particular student and the incident. Should be the anecdote should report the actual observation written after events. Single event is of no value. It should be a repetitive thing that you are seeing, and that will help the person to understand. The next that we go ahead is with the so now, as you have seen, anecdotal record talks about describing a particular event. At the same time, now we have the next is the cumulative record. It's a record of information which is concerned with the appraisal of a student. The information which is obtained periodically through various observation, case study, and things like that, and then put together as a cumulative record card. So it has a lot to do when you are talking about a cumulative information. It is all brought together. So a cumulative record card supplies all information like the name, the date of birth, the place of birth, the gender, the color, the residence, the home, the name of the parents, occupation, economic status, number of siblings, languages spoken, achievement, general intelligence, all these things put together is the so it can be under the personal information, it can be under the home information, it can be about the test scores that you're talking about, it will be about the school attendance that you're talking about, it will be about the health that you're talking about, and then miscellaneous. So these are the main headings that you will be considering when it is a cumulative record. Now, why is it important to keep? So the cumulative record of an individual indicates if the achievements are in proportion to his or her mental abilities. If the student is underachieving, he or she can be guided to what steps that is needed to taken as a remedy. The cumulative records are of different subjects help the teacher in classifying the students in accordance to the scholastic aptitudes and mental ability. It also helps in understanding the needs of the students in the class. If a teacher is new, what kind of a support has to be provided, it is understood. These are diagnostic tests which help them in understanding how the teacher should interact in the class. A cumulative record indicates a teacher about students who need individual attention. It also talks about the kind of it's like a certificate, character certificate, more objectively written. It makes sense in looking it up as a case study further and then taking more things in common. So when we talk about cumulative record, we have to understand it is just not 1 year or 1 day that we are recording, but as a whole. So as we come to the end of this, topic, I just want to end with this quote by Gautam Buddha: "To walk safely through the maze of human life, one needs the light of wisdom and the guidance of virtue." As as involved in guidance and counseling, and throughout this entire session, you will understand that it is not one day or a small event that you will look up when you're talking about the various techniques of counseling or techniques of guidance. The aim of guidance and counseling is to assist the learners to acquire them sufficient understanding of themselves. So it is self-reflection first and the environment. You are knowing yourself and then the society. And then you are taking measures to match, adapt accordingly to the community. So it is the assistance that is given to the individual in making intelligent choices and adjustment in their lives. The ability to make wise choices is not innate, must be developed. It has to be fostered. The fundamental purpose of understanding the techniques of guidance and counseling is to develop an individual up to the limit, to the limit of his or own ability, and to solve the problems by themselves. So the techniques which are generally employed by most of us are enable us to collect the data, and whether it is in the standardized or the unstandardized or non-standardized form, but it helps us to understand the data which help us to do our work better. So with this, I would like to say that let us all have the right kind of wisdom and the guidance of virtue as we move ahead in this journey of understanding people and making the world a better place for all of us. Thank you so much.